Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the modern market, where every day we discuss everything to do with the modern market. That is the crypto market, the NFT market, and how to make some or a lot of money on the internet. Loaded up for discussion today. We have the founder of Vine launching a Vine token, which rips past $200 million in half a day. We'll dive into that a little bit, discuss the new ideas of capital allocation in the internet capital markets, as well as think about that token specifically and give you the breakdown. We've got Kaito NFTs surging past 10 ETH before a little bit of a pullback before 8.5 ETH. Some interesting features being shipped on Kaito. We'll break those down in just a little bit. And then finally, Ethereum announces Etherealize, an institutional marketing and product arm for Ethereum. Will that be enough to save ETH? We will be talking about that in just a little bit. We've also got the latest on price action on crypto and NFTs, and a interesting looping segment today with our partners Polkadot. So very excited to hear that. Stay tuned. We've got Legendary in the co-host seat. We're ready to get into it. But just a reminder, friends, that nothing that we do or say or even think on this show should be considered as financial advice. This market is very risky. We don't know anything for sure. Please proceed with caution and exercise your own judgment. With that out of the way, Legendary, coming straight to you today. It's Thursday, it's the 23rd of January. How you doing?
GM Jim, the only reason you're coming straight to me is because you don't have any other option. It is just the two of us.
That is true.
So,
that is true.
You made it sound like it is something special that you're coming straight to me, but you just didn't have any alternative.
It's true. It's true. I'm not saying that what you're saying is false, but nevertheless, sometimes these one-on-one shows do have special atmosphere, don't you think? You get to dive into things in a bit more detail, taking it back to the old days when it was just me and you and like 6 other people listening in.
Back to the roots of the modern market. Another thing that is also special, look at this segue, is the timing of our show. It seems like recently, at the end of the show, there are things happening. We had Binance listings that started exactly when our show ends. And today we have actually 2 things that happen on the minute when we're going to close the show. I think on one hand, Anime Coin, TGE, the claim will go live in 50 minutes. And on the other hand, the voting on Kaito, which is also one of the headlines that we'll cover today, will also start once we conclude the show.
Interesting. Okay, that'll be fun because I wanted to discuss the Kaito, the voting. I think that'll be a nice thing to be able to break down. And yeah, you're right. The Pengu launch, or the token went live as well right at the end of our show, and we had to like drop off to go and make our claims as well once we realized it was trading pretty high. So yeah, good stuff. Things are happening in the market all the time, and they're definitely happening on this show. So we're very, very happy about that. Aside from that, Legendary, before we get into all the main stuff, price action, everything else, how are you doing on a personal perspective?
Doing quite well. Still looking forward to the weekend. There's a bit of admin stuff to do. There's also a bit of flickering going on with your light.
Yeah, I'm wondering how annoying it is. It's kind of annoying me, but I guess I just have to deal with it.
Yeah, I just have enough screens to look at to try to not notice it too much, but
it is. I'm going to switch that light off in a second when you're talking, doing your segment. Keep going.
Yeah.
Personally, you're doing okay?
Doing quite well. Looking forward to the weekend is the short summary of that.
Okay. Just ignore my light for the moment. Well, as soon as I'm going to stop talking, I'm going to go and switch it off maybe. Right. Let's get into it, get you up to speed with everything that's been happening in the space in the last 24 hours, starting with the price action. As always, we'll go to the majors first. Sorry, guys, it's a bad day. Bad day today. Down 3% is Bitcoin back to $102,000. ETH is also down 3%, and it's just still at 3.2K. It's just 3.2 or 3.3 every single day. That's what it is. We've got Solana down 5% to $244. I also just wanted to check in on Hype, although I'm not actually a holder anymore because I made a little trade on it the other day. Down 10%, 23. Bought the bottom, sold the top. Not bad. That's pretty cool, although I think Hype's doing a great job. Getting into the headlines themselves. Actually, no, we're going to go to the meme coins first. Let's go to the meme coins. Dogecoin is down 5% at 34 cents. Trump is down 14% to $36. Pepe down 6% as well. Pengu's up a couple of percent. One of the only meme coins with a bit of green on the charts today. Bonk's down 5. Fartcoin is down 15 for an interesting reason. I'll share why in a moment. AI16Z, AI is down 22%. Giga's down 8%. Mog's down 12%. A lot of red here. AXBT down 15% as well. So all of the memes at the moment, post-Trump, all of the memes have just been aggressively volatile, right? Huge swings up, huge swings down, big recoveries back up. Very, very volatile in the meme coin sector as things stand. Getting into the headlines themselves, also very volatile. The founder of Vine launched the Vine token this morning. Vine ripped past $200 million in not a long time. I don't know what the price is immediately now. That's what it was when I last checked. We'll dive into it in a bit more in just a bit. Kaito NFTs surged past 10 ETH before pull back to 8.5 ETH. As Legendary mentioned at the top of the show, there's this voting system that's now going to go live for pre-TGE projects. We'll break down what that means, what it means for YAPs, what it means for NFT holders, and what interesting dynamics is happening in the kind of yapping economy. Never knew that would be something I would need to be describing, but that is the world we're in. And finally, Ethereum announces Etherealize, an institutional marketing and product arm for Ethereum. Basically, it's going to be like a hub for content going after TradFi, like really trying to go after the institutions, feeling like that's where ETH's unfair advantage is. So that's who they're going to go after to try to onboard onto ETH. We'll break down the details a little bit later in the show as the final headlines. Some notable sales from around the space. We had another Autoglyph selling for 100 ETH. We had a couple of those 100 ETH and higher in the last couple of days. So had multiple CryptoPunk sales in the 60 ETH to 50 ETH region. So that is very healthy. And a Pudgy Penguin Wizard selling for 29 ETH, a few high Pudgy Penguin sales as well. Legendary, what's going on the rest of the NFT market?
It is a bit of a mixed day. We have Pudgy Penguins down a bit, down 5%, 20.4 ETH floor for them. We have Bored Apes, on the other hand, being up almost 10% and flirting with the 15 ETH floor, 14.9 ETH floor for them. Then we have Azukis, which had pumped leading up to the TG, but now have corrected down a bit again, 10.9 ETH floor, down 3%. And then, as you mentioned, we have the Kaito Genesis NFTs, which are up 30% over the last 24 hours, 8.2 ETH floor for them, but went as high as 10% even. Went as high as 10 ETH even.
I like it. Good summary from the NFT side. As you said, Kaito is just the one that's absolutely exploded up. So that's good to note. Getting into the Web3 Roundup to get up to with everything else that's happened. Azukis are down 13% on TGE day. Elementals down 25% to 1 ETH. Obviously watching with great interest how the Azuki, the anime coin, comes out to market. Goat pumps 20% to 33 cents on news that it sold its Fartcoin position OTC to buy its own token back. This is like just a fascinating story where the founder decided that they needed to sell a certain amount of the position. They're going to start buying its own token back. But there's actually a really deeper, interesting story going on here, where because of the legal structure of how this is being run at the moment, basically the person who runs Goat is seen as the owner of this stuff. So they're trying to work behind the scenes to make the truth terminal kind of autonomous and recognized legally as autonomous as well. Because, it's hard for all of the stuff that Goat does to be attributed to the founder. In other news, founder of Lido denies the creation of a second Ethereum foundation, but does not rule it out. Obviously, a lot of people have been unhappy with the Ethereum foundation for some time. So some whispers going on now about trying to create another one to help push ETH forward. Web3 OnlyFans protocol Only One announces $3 million in transaction volume. BlackRock CEO Larry Fink says Bitcoin could go as high as 700K. He's been doing a pretty good job of bull posting Bitcoin at the moment. I've been listening to him in a variety of settings. He's really going after it. Ethos, the credibility protocol of the future, launches on Base. That's pretty interesting. Again, it kind of in this social fi region, trying to attribute some type of value to the way people behave online and on chain. So I think that is part of that. And then finally, John McAfee coin launched by Wife surged to $80 million before sell off to $30 million. So we're seeing, I don't know how, I think that's a relatively recent one. I don't know if that's entirely verified, guaranteed, cold stone, official, but there was a tweet from the John McAfee account and from his wife's account. So there we go. That's where we are in the market. Lots of runners in the morning as we're waking up. But before we get into the bigger conversation, Legendary, around the headlines, what's catching your attention here?
Yeah, there's two things I want to touch on. One's a bit more serious, and one's more on a question on the news selection for you. The serious one first. The gold stuff is really interesting because I wonder what it actually means that legal steps are being taken to make Truth Terminal autonomous, and then also the addition of that, that there's the foundation, which has been founded and which eventually also will allow Truth Terminal to manage its own finances with control of its own wallet. But that foundation still needs to have a human director, because I can't imagine a setup where there's like no human who's ultimately responsible for whatever actions the terminal, as autonomous as it might be or seem to be, and that there's no human who's ultimately responsible for that.
Yeah, it's really fascinating. I'm just looking at the tweet now. He said AIs are not yet legally considered to be persons, and talking to lawyers revealed that in the eyes of the law, these tokens, wallets, and even the Truth Terminal's model weights would be considered mine. This felt deeply wrong to me on a moral level. So since late November, most of my time has been spent setting up a legal structure that can act as a proxy for the Truth Terminal, so that nobody owns the little guy, so that it can have its own sovereignty, assembling a council of highly ethical humans to act as its agents, and finding the lowest risk way to officially assign custody of the tokens to the terminal's legal body. Because I guess what part of all of this means that, he's although the agent is holding these tokens, like technically the law does not recognize that, and it will just go down under his name at the moment. So pretty interesting stuff there. So that was was that the serious one or the fun one?
No, that was the serious one.
It's kind of fun as well. Okay, that was serious.
The kind of fun one is, so we have the Vine founder coming back to launch a token, and then we have quote unquote John McAfee coming back from the dead to launch a token as well, via his wife as a proxy, apparently. How did you decide which one to make the headline and which one to put in the Web3 roundup?
Good question.
Is it based on market cap?
So on some level, one is more valuable than the other. So therefore, it should be more valuable. Therefore, it should be more important, I think. That's how we weigh things generally. So yeah, the Vine one obviously has ripped far higher than the McAfee one. So I think that's part of it. And I think also with the Vine one, there's a more interesting angle of deeper conversation, which is this going to be how capital formation continues in the future? Is there going to be some type of fundraising done now by internet native companies that instead of going a previous route, you now take this route instead? So I think there's a bit of a deeper conversation to be had there. Whereas McAfee is it's just a meme coin again, right? All of this stuff's kind of interesting, but I don't think there's a deeper trend happening there to really analyze. That's my thought. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. Might sound a bit cynical, but the Vine founder is alive and he can actually do something with the token. That alone probably allows for more deeper discussion, because there have been some sort of plans around that, which we'll get into a bit later. So I would have done it the same way, but I was curious to hear your line of thought on that.
Yeah, that was exactly my thinking, to be honest. That was my thinking. Okay, let's just before we get into the looping stuff that we want to talk about, Legendary, we've been speaking a lot about just general capital allocation at the moment, where we think we are in the cycle, how we're going about things. Things definitely seem to be moving a bit faster, right? Like things seem to be moving aggressively faster. Timeframes seem to be getting compressed. We were just talking a little bit before the show about how like a lot of the teams that we either have worked with or are working with or are considering to be working with all have the same timelines now. Many of them like want things to happen quickly. Like how's that playing out for you? Maybe just from a personal perspective, but also in terms of how you're allocating towards things. How is your mind either changing or staying the same? What are you thinking?
Yeah, actually had a bit of a portfolio update post yesterday that I'm currently sharing on screen. Just to go quickly through it, took profits and stables in NBTC in December and January, shifted more of my ETH to Sol, reduced the AI exposure to some of my core bets, including AI XPT, including Vader, including Cookie. Good part of stables is still considered for myself to be chips which are still on the table, which are still part of the game, and they are there to be deployed into short-term trades. But my definition of short-term has gotten even shorter now. Like,
so go on, explain what that means.
Basically, I am not really happy if I enter a new bet to keep that open for a couple of days. Even with stuff like Vine or John McAfee's anti-AI, whatever the ticker for that token is, entered both, but also took a good amount of profits out already. I'm like only holding a moon bag, because we've seen it with Trump, how fast attention can shift and how much liquidity can suck out. So for the non-conviction bets, I'm very happy to go in and go out within a couple of hours. And if anything comes to light where I'm like, oh, Vine could actually be something interesting for the next, I don't know, 1 week, 2 weeks, whatever timeline that might be, I'm happy to buy in a bit higher as well. So just because I leave a position, it doesn't mean I'm not going to re-enter it. That's basically all on the portfolio update. And just that additional note that I also had in that post, that I've recently started to do a couple of angel investments again. And some people have been asking if that's been more like on long-term plays, or if that's been deals that are more short-term. It's actually there's a couple of deals floating around with very generous unlocks with rather short vesting, TGE that's to come pretty soon. So it's more of these bets rather than something that I view as a multi-cycle bet that will come to fruition in the next 3 or 4 years. So there's a couple of very aggressive rounds going around, which I've invested in. That's the update on my thinking and my portfolio side.
Yeah, I think that's also a sign of where we are in the cycle, though, right? Like, I think as everyone thinks that there's less time left, those rounds need to become more generous over and over again. So, I think sometimes there's criticism of if rounds are so attractive, it might signal to people that no one has a huge amount of conviction. At least, like, sometimes it's not even the founders themselves. It's like, well, if everyone is vesting this quickly, and if all investors are vesting this quickly, then is there enough conviction for all parties for this thing to be viable? But I guess what's happening at this stage of the market is that in order to raise the capital, because there's so much competition, as we just said, like, everyone has the same timeline now, right? If you do need money, and you do need to raise, then how are you going to get it? You have to be competitive with other things. And, ultimately incentives don't lie. And this is the thing with, when it comes to all of this investing stuff and people criticize people for I'm not a big fan of criticizing people for selling when they are literally allowed to because of the terms. Because if you don't sell, the other people who are allowed to are going to sell, right? It's on the founder and the team's responsibility to set the rules. And we had this discussion beforehand with the AI DAO that created this controversy because no one really set the rules, and then some people sold and other people sold on top of them, and some people held and saw their value get diminished as a consequence. But I'm very, very pro people being allowed to sell based on the rules that are given to them. So if that's short because of where the market is, then great. If it's long because for whatever reason, that's great. And then if they want to sell on the first day, that's also okay. So that's my thoughts on the angel stuff. But it's interesting to note that that's kind of where the market's going. On the trading stuff, I think that's probably right as well. It's kind of what it feeds into the thing I was saying about being on hard mode. And I think people's initial reaction to Trump coming people's initial reaction to Trump launching the meme coin was amazing. Everything's going to be allowed now, like, really good. The doors are open for all kinds of stuff, which is true on some level, but then it also means that you're now exposed to every aspect of competition, because anyone might come through, just like the founder of Vine, and launch coin any day. And so that's going to put all of the the existing positions, if they're not super strong and not held by people that have significant conviction, it's going to make it a little bit vulnerable. So I'm definitely with you there. It's the same thing I've been articulating for a few days, or at least since Trump came in, and then even Trump did that. They did it to themselves with the Melania coin, proving that thesis out. So definitely, if it's not hard mode, and if you're not catching stuff early, I don't know if this is easy as people think it might be. I would, just exercise a little bit of caution in my view. Legendary, final thoughts from you on anything that I've said, and then let's get into this looping strategy, which is actually a little bit separate to the, urgent 1 or 2 day trade.
Yeah, I mean, we've even see like incumbent projects react to that. It was, let me bring this up on screen. Garga saying everything we're seeing is that we're in a new, more sober and friendly regulatory environment for crypto. We've waited a long time for that. We have plans to reward Bored Apes, other DEET holders with something we have planned this year. And obviously, as we said at the top of the show, it's not only the Bored Apes that are up, but also the entire other DEETs. And collection is up 16%. Quotas pumped as much as 40%, if I recall that correctly. So basically, on the one hand, yes, you have dead people who suddenly launch a coin, and you have the Vine founder coming back to launch a coin. But then also you have incumbent projects, existing Web3 companies who are able to use a way more, let's call it aggressive, less mysterious language, and clearly say, we are going to do something to reward you this year because now we can do that. So the playing field is kind of leveled again, but the competition in absolute numbers has become bigger for sure.
Yeah, I like it though. I think it's good. Good. I think it's good for competition. I think it's good for people to keep coming in. And I think a lot of stuff people are holding with like not a lot of conviction because they're just trying to quickly flip it anyway. And this is just accelerating your process, guys. Like you're holding something that ultimately is not valuable, and something else that is better with a higher level of attention is just coming in and making you sell faster than you would have done before. So I actually think that's good because you know deep down some of this stuff is not valuable. So it's just accelerating the process. That's my thought there. We're going to get into we started getting into some of those bigger discussions, and we're going to get into the headlines in just a moment. But let's go to our sponsored segment for today, Legendary. We've got some interesting stuff on looping on Polkadot. Take it away.
Yeah, let's get into today's Polkadot explorations. We want to dive into Polkadot's main DeFi protocol, Hydration, and a specific looping strategy, which could allow you to earn a significant yield on your Polkadot holdings at a relatively low risk. This segment is brought to you by Polkadot, a more scalable and interoperable blockchain network created by many of the brightest minds in blockchain and governed by the DOT community and token. So before we get into the actual looping strategy, we need to understand what looping is. Looping is a pretty popular strategy in DeFi where users continually borrow and stake assets to build a yield position that is compounding. And why is looping specifically good on Hydration? The borrow fees for DOT are relatively low at around 2.7%, and the yield for staking DOT, which will be very important in a bit, is way higher than that. The liquid stake token on Hydration is VDOT. It's Polkadot's largest staking token by Bifrost. VDOT has a TVL of 46 mil and is fully backed by DOT. The current APY is around 13%. So on the one hand, you have a 2.7% borrow rate versus the 13% yield for staking. There's clearly an opportunity here. So how does the loop work exactly? First of all, you need VDOT, the liquid staked version of Polkadot, which you then deposit into the lending pool on Hydration. The next thing you want to do is borrow regular DOT against it, which, as we said, comes at a cost of 2.7%. You can do that up to a loan to value of 70%. Liquidation threshold is 75%. You can actually push those numbers a bit higher if you use the efficient mode on Hydration, but we're not going to get into those details. So the next step then is you take your borrowed DOT back to Bifrost to stake it for VDOT. And this is exactly the process where you're earning those 13 or currently 13.5% in yield. This is also where the loop begins, because then you can head back to Hydration, lend your newly staked VDOT, borrow DOT against it again, and rinse and repeat that process. If you loop, say, 4 times, That would roughly bring your APY to 26% after borrowing fees and also assuming a 60% LTV. I went a bit lower for that example than the maximum LTV just to reduce the risk a little bit. Talking about risks, because this all sounds good, but there are some risks associated with that. First of all, liquidation risk. It is relatively low in this case because V dot is bound to the price of dot. However, in case the liquid state token depegs, you can get liquidated. And we've seen it with some of the ETH protocols where you also had liquid staked versions of the token. Depegs happened, people got liquidated. So it is, yes, a low risk, but it is a real risk that you need to keep in mind. And there's also protocol risk if either hydration or Bifrost get exploited. So the most important question, can you apply this strategy right now? And the answer is no, because VDOT hit its supply cap of 220K tokens within 15 hours after launching this on hydration because it was so popular. However, there's good news in form of a governance vote that's currently going on to, on the one hand, increase the supply cap from 222K to 333K tokens and also boost the LTV to 75%, which would allow you to borrow more DOT against that. And overall, if you do this loop, increase your total APY. The vote has been approved by all 7 council members. And once the supply cap increase gets implemented, I assume that it will fill up very quickly again. So if you're interested, you should keep an eye on updates from Hydration to participate in this quote unquote oversubscribed looping strategy. And also keep the risks in mind that are associated to that. But again, I think once this cap gets increased, it will fill up pretty quickly. Shout out to Polkadot, who are sponsoring this segment, and us to explore the ecosystem. So we do look forward to further explorations in 2025 and beyond. B, you are still on mute.
Excellent. Yeah, I think that's really interesting. Well, on the one hand, we're talking about all of these like really fast moving things. But at the same time, we're always looking for different opportunities to allocate our capital in smarter ways. And that's a very interesting one, which we identified on Polkadot. Hope you found that interesting. So let's keep it moving, getting into the main headlines. Go on, Legendary.
One quick thing before we do that, let's go to Funky first, who has his hand up and certainly has something to say on the hydration side of things as well.
Okay.
Thanks so much, Legendary. Yeah, I'll be very quick. The one thing I was going to mention, you already covered, because I just want people to be aware that they did have the vote and it is going to increase the cap for VDOT. And you're probably right. It's probably going to fill up very fast. These are 2 of the most popular DeFi protocols in the entire Polkadot ecosystem. And the one thing I was just going to add as a quick note in terms of security, yes, there's always going to be some kind of risk, right? This is blockchain. No one's going to deny that. But it's unlike typical EVM landscapes or just when you're in that environment, because a lot of times the risk is smart contract risk and what's like in all of this stuff on hydration, and the same is for Bifrost as well. This is custom logic that's built out on pallets. These are modules. There are no smart contracts involved because of the way the Polkadot SDK is architectured. You have all this is built in Rust, so it's highly secure. It would probably be very, very difficult to have any kind of like hack or anything like that. So I just want to put that out there in terms of just the extra layer of security that you're getting with Polkadot. Thanks.
Sounds good, man. Thanks for the additional Polkadot insight, Funky. As always, appreciate you there. Let's get into the main stuff now. Starting with the Vine piece of news. I think that's the best way to go. There was a tweet by the founder of Vine this morning saying, remembering all the fun we had building Vine, let's relive the magic and do it for the Vine coin. Remember, Vine was a very viral app. I'm not sure how many years ago now. Short form videos, very, very quick stuff. People found it really, really fun at the time. I think it holds, in people's memories, it's got like a very fond position. People are very fond of it, although obviously it doesn't exist anymore. Launched a meme coin earlier today, shared the contract address. He then went on to share, just working through some of these tweets. He was able to, he was kind of bull posting it as well. He just went, this one that I'm showing on the screen now for the people who are watching in, remember, live on X and live on YouTube as well. Literally, as the price tanked down, just drawing a line on the chart and just pointing up. This was when the price was down at 6 million, drawing a line up towards the 50 million region. As I said, it's gone up to as high as 200 million recently. And then the bit of analysis that to be done here, he tweeted out to say all Vine dev tokens are locked until April the 20th at 4:20 p.m. The relocks will continue until Vine comes back. So this is pretty interesting stuff. Imran Khan from, what's the name of the Alliance DAO, of course, they're one of the best incubators at the moment, said this: the founder of Vine is using Pump as a way to restart Vine again. The signs are clear. Both Pump Fund and DAO's Fund will become the permissionless way to fundraise. So this is the more interesting analysis of this situation. Like, yes, there's been a token launched by a founder. Yes, it's gone up a lot in value. And if you caught it, you probably made some money. But I guess what people are talking about now, the crux of this trend that is happening, is the question: is this going to be the way that founders attempt to raise capital moving forward? Instead of going through more traditional routes of fundraising, will this be the way they go? In Alliance DAO founders' opinion, the answer is yes. A prominent opinion to the contrary is G Money, obviously very prominent collector, investor, and trader in the space, said this: so the people saying that new startups are launching on Pump Fund, a few questions. How? Are they buying up 80% of the initial supply? Where are they getting their funding from? Even looking at this Vine launch, the founder only holds 5% of the supply. Clearly expressing real skepticism of how someone is supposed to be aligned on a medium to long-term basis when you're establishing a company, if you do not have a more meaningful stake than just a couple of percent or just 5%. It's not enough if you own a company to only have 5% and everything else be owned by everyone else. That is the position put back to them. So legendary. That's where we are with the news. We've got the price action, we've got the general news, we've got some of the commentary on it. What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, first of all, on the price action, because the move has been so significant, we have to quickly update that. Taking a quick look at the chart, we are at 340 million now. So basically, from the time you wrote the snapshot of 200 mil, we almost doubled up again from that. The beautiful arrow up that was drawn on the chart actually played out to be true. In terms of the more serious question between Imran and G Money, when it comes to, is this a new way to actually raise for a startup? I do tend to lean more and side with G Money on this, because it is a game of incentives. And if you just control a small percentage of the supply, it is a weird situation if you say this is your startup, but you basically start by not owning 95% of your own company, which is exactly the other way around as things typically go. And you also don't then have the power to find yourself a set of advisors, people who can help with that project and reward them with equity in the company, unless you have sniped more. And we've seen launches getting sniped by companies. We've seen launches on virtuals being supported by virtuals in a way that the company can acquire a more significant stake that they then can distribute to team, community, however. So I do think that there is merits to using a meme coin to raise funds for your startup, but it has to be in a bit more in a more controlled way. And I like this. I think it was Brett, when we talked about that last time on our show, who made this analogy to call it like an idea market. Kind of even a stage earlier than Kickstarter, basically, because with Kickstarter, you might have an MVP out there. You have an idea of how that MVP could look like. But here you're just checking the market vibe to see if there's if this idea would be even embraced by the market.
It's a vibes market.
Yeah.
It's just like, is this a good idea? Is this a good vibe? If you get the, like, okay, this is how it would work, legendary. I was going to reply to G Money saying this, and I thought, I don't know, maybe this is a ridiculous response, but maybe it is a ridiculous situation. So this is what you would do. You launch the coin to test your idea because it's an ideas market. You have 5% of it. It ends up being worth a hell of a lot of money. You then dump the coin, take all the money, go and start the company properly, and own 95% of the company, right? Like, isn't like, if you were actually going to make sure all the incentives were done correctly, like, that would be the way to do it. And that sounds terrible, right? Because you're dumping on all the people. But then the point is, no one's really holding this in a maybe there would be a way to incentivize the people who remained holders, but then you would need to go and I don't know. You'd need to reset the incentives once you've established. I don't know. What do you think here? I'm going to rethink that and come back.
Yeah, what I think is also really interesting is to take a look at the numbers, because obviously this coin has been created overnight. Founder owns 5%, 350 mil. That or 340 mil. That puts him 10% would be 34, 5% 17 mil. And just a question for you: do you remember that Vine back in the day was bought by Twitter? That was in 2012. How much was Vine bought for by Twitter? Just to put that in perspective.
I don't know. Go on.
30 mil. 30 mil. So you had an actual company that you built and sold to a social media giant for 30 mil. And then you come back more than 10 years later, launch a token, and that trades at 11 times market cap than the company that you have actually built successfully and sold to Twitter back then. This is quite insane if you put that in perspective. And even if you just then think, okay, the founder kept 5% worth 17 mil, this is still, if he were to dump all of that, which he can't do because liquidity is 6 mil, but you could like scale out with a one-sided LP, you could do an OTC deal, whatever, just assume that. He'll probably make way more money than selling the company back then, which had other shareholders, I assume, which had people to pay, et cetera, et cetera. And this is just an overnight thing. So obviously it has the history, but just putting those numbers in relationship with one another is what makes it truly absurd.
So, okay, so this is maybe the counterpoint that I was moving towards, which is something like, okay, fine, they don't have the right incentives in the sense that you only have 5%. However, is there a universe where even though you only have 5%, the scale and potential that you can achieve in terms of valuations in this space means that your dollar value is going to be so much higher, even if you have a significantly less percentage, which might be appealing to you if for whatever reason you can't go the traditional route and you're happy to sacrifice some of that other power. What do you think about that, Ledge?
On the one hand, yes. On the other hand, as we said, all the dev tokens are locked up until the 20th of April. So then you would need to keep that relevant. And also that would operate under the assumption that the founder only has exposure to Vine via the dev tokens and doesn't have other wallets where he's also holding a significant stash of the tokens, which is obviously something that we can't know. And I'm not insinuating that in any way, but it's just an unknown that we can't be the judge of. But if we just look at the things that we know, then it's a tough game, because 3 months is a very, very long time in the attention economy to stay relevant with the token. And also all of crypto then knows that there is this unlock coming, and they would likely want to sell off before that, unless there's a massive incentive not to do so. So the paper gains look good, but I'd be seriously impressed if they are anywhere as good looking 3 months into the future.
Yeah, a lot of things look good before all the unlocks happen, right? This is one thing you must know about crypto at this point. Almost every single, it's kind of like an alternative form of a VC coin, although obviously there's no VC here, but the people who are locked up, whoever they may be, whether they're VCs, whether they're investors, whether it's the founder in this case, like the people who are holding a lot of the coins and who are locked up, there's a reason why the majority of crypto coins over a long period of time are just down only, because yes, people are locked up for a period of time, the unlocks happen, and then everyone is allowed to sell, which they're allowed to do. They've invested, they should be allowed to take their profit, but that's what happens. So interesting. And then I guess the final point, and then Legendary, I want to go straight to you for the next headline, is this is one kind of tech company that has decided that this would be a cool thing to do relatively quickly. I just would bet so much money on there being more, whether that's an old company trying to revive itself, whether that's a current company thinking this is a fun way to tokenize something and just go onto the internet and do something exploratory. Like there will just definitely be another one in the next week or 2 or month, or I just feel super confident about that.
Yeah, very much agree with that. Obviously, is going around in the news will make lots of headlines and will inspire other people to do the same.
Okay. Interesting stuff. Find that whole topic pretty fascinating at the moment because it actually goes to the heart of capital formation. And yeah, it's obviously catching fire as we speak. So let's keep it moving though. Got a couple of other important headlines to get into today. Legendary, do you want to take it away with the next one?
Yeah, absolutely. This is actually the one that I find really interesting, and it is around Kaito AI, the InfoFi product we've been talking about on the show for quite a while. And they have introduced a new feature. It's called Kaito Connect. And basically what it does is it allows yappers, it allows holders of their Genesis NFT to vote on which Yapper leaderboards are to launch next. So obviously, if you go to Kaito, you don't only have the overall overview of mindshare in crypto, but you have very specific leaderboards for crypto, XAI, for AI agents, for Kaito, for Anime, Berachain, Corn, and many more. And basically, so far they have been selected by Kaito themselves, and now they are decentralizing this decision and they are putting it into the hands of people who are actively yapping, of people who are holding the Genesis NFTs. The Genesis NFT voting is not live yet, but they said it will be implemented in the next stage. And your voting power depends on the amount of yaps that you hold or that you have earned so far. But it also depends on the number of smart followers that you have. One more interesting wording before I'll get into the voting side of things was this. Let me get it right because I need to read it out. You are now able to vote for pre-TGE projects that you want to see Yappa leaderboards for using your Yaps, smart followers, and soon on-chain representations of Kaito, including their Genesis NFT. So on-chain representations, including the NFT, to me means, or I read it as, that there will be other on-chain representations as well, which reads as a very strong hint to a token that obviously the whole timeline has been speculating on for quite a while. Going back, however, to the voting, to take a look, I'm sharing this on screen to see how this voting page looks like. We said it, voting will, actually, I got it wrong. It will start in 1 day and 10 minutes. It will start after we conclude tomorrow's show. It's not starting after this show. And there is a selection of protocols, including Zero G Labs, Mega ETH, Hyperbolic, Humanity Protocol, where you will be able to vote for with your tokens. And as a part of that, I myself and many other people on the timeline also asked the question, will there be incentives to vote? Because some of the protocols could just say, if you vote and the vote's obviously public and recorded on blockchain, we will incentivize that vote because we want to have that leaderboard. I also have posted a poll on that asking exactly that question. Will you vote for the protocol on Kaito you believe in most or the one that offers the highest bribe? So far, the answers are 46% saying the best protocol and 54% saying the best bribe. And we've also seen the first...
Lies.
Honest, right? And we've also seen the first protocol coming out and announcing that there's going to be a reward if you vote for them. So
just break that down then, Legendary. So yes, as you said, you've put this question out there. Are people going to start, in effect, incentivizing / bribing people, however you want to phrase it or frame it? There are incentives by protocol specifically to get your vote, and your vote being your yaps. And the two votes are your smart followers and your yaps, right? There's those two numbers that are key and which you can allocate towards different protocols. So what was the protocol and what did they say in terms of their incentive?
Yeah, it was Skate Chain, which is a blockchain that will enable any app to run natively in Solana, Ethereum, Ton, Base, Movement, Eclipse, and more. And they said they are giving away 50 million ollies to yappers who vote for Skate, win or lose. So they don't even have to win. Just voting for them will earn you a reward.
Okay, that is pretty cool. I mean, look, it's good marketing. It's good marketing. They haven't even done anything, and we're talking about them. We would be remiss to not mention Mega ETH Century. Obviously, our boy Bread Guy is not with us today, but they are in the realm of stuff. And this is what he had to say. I have no details what this means, but I think we should at least read it out for them, for our boy Bread. Here it is. He said, "All right, Yapper bros. Let me show it. TLDR, Yaps are votes. Kaito NFTs are votes. You can vote on the next projects to get a leaderboard. Vote for us, ... for a lot of reasons." I wonder what those reasons are. They're not as explicit as maybe some of the other ones so far, but I guess this is the game that all of the protocols are gonna try to play in order to get some of their some of your yaps. And a final interesting point on this before we get to the final headline is when you go to the website at the moment, I can't remember how it popped up, but there was like a new pop-up that came up and you clicked through a couple of times. And I think it literally just said like yaps as currency. Legendary. Did you see that?
No.
I'm sure you would have seen it. You haven't seen it yet.
I didn't see it, no.
Okay. There's some that I'm think I wasn't imagining it when I went through in the morning. But it literally had like yaps as a currency. And I can just definitely see there being some type of, yes, you're allocating it. You're allocating yaps on the basis of them being votes, but I could see there being like a bit more of a yap economy being created here, right? Because if they have value, because protocols are willing to reward you for the allocation of them, that means that maybe it's not only that you want to allocate them to the protocols directly. It might mean that you just like, look, I've got 100 yaps. I don't really have time to be allocating to all these protocols. Why don't I give you 100 yaps, Legendary, and you just pay me for them because I don't want to do this voting stuff. I don't have the time. So you take my yaps. Let's create an economy of yaps. Is that me thinking too far, or what do you think about that?
Basically delegating votes. I mean, if they're ever going to have a token, that's something we've seen with other tokens as well. I'd go even further though, because Kaito plays an even more important role when it comes to that. Imagine you are Mega ETH. If you're Mega ETH, you need to know who are the people who are supportive of you on the timeline, who are your smart followers, and who are people who are smart followers and have a good amount of yaps. And to answer that question, you need Kaito again to tell you that. If you go to looking at the Mega ETH dashboard, which I'm sharing on screen now, they are displaying the smart followers for Mega ETH.
Wow.
There's 2.1K of them. They are showing you the top smart followers. So even they're showing you official team accounts, which is obviously Bread, and external mentions. So even if you're one of the protocols on there and you're like, I want to create an incentive for some of the top smart followers who've already been interacting with me to get those people, you need Kaito again because they have that data, which is fascinating how this loop is then closing.
That's I hadn't seen that specific graph yet. That's really, really good. Bullish on Kaito, to be honest. Obviously the NFTs are already expressing that view. A lot of sentiment is incredibly bullish, I think, as well. They're doing a good job. It's just a good job. They're doing a good job. Doing very well. This is an interesting additional kind of building on top of that foundation where they're kind of tracking our engagement and our followers and stuff. So very interested to see how they continue. We will obviously continue to report on it as we think it's relevant. I think that was a nice summary of all of the important details. Final headline for the day, Legendary. We've only got 4 minutes left. I think that is sufficient for this one, but a pretty big shift in tone and movement in the Ethereum Foundation. And what's going on with this new development?
Yeah, we've been talking a bit about the Ethereum Foundation over the last couple of days, and now there's another piece of news coming out from that, and it is this post I'm sharing on screen that reads, introducing Etherealize, an institutional marketing and product arm for the Ethereum ecosystem. The goal is to accelerate adoption by bringing institution to ETH, the digital economy of tomorrow. All roads flow through ETH, and we'll show the world why. There's a couple elements to that. First, Etherealize is a hub for content, for TradFi, ETF issuers, for the broader public to learn about the ETH ecosystem. Beyond content, they are also building, because ETH does need more apps. So they're building a product suite for institutions. And ETH also needs more vocal proponents, which basically share that mission that ETH is the most battle-tested blockchain with the most assets, the most institutions, and the best regulatory standing. What does that mean precisely? One thing that we've seen so far is this coming out of that. With investments from Buterin and the foundation, Vivek Ventures said that he and a team of 8 full-time employees began operating this month in New York, where they are marketing Ethereum to financial firms while also building products that will make the network easier for banks to use. So this to me very strongly reads as a realization that ETH needs more marketing, not on the necessarily on the retail facing side, but on the B2B side where they want to focus on more. And this is a clear acknowledgement of the fact that they are now having a dedicated team that goes after these people, that tries to do a bit more of the lobbying, which is something that the Ethereum Foundation typically said they don't want to do. But that's a 180 on that opinion, and it's exactly the acknowledgement that this is the department where they're currently lacking in.
Yeah, excellent summary. I think that perfectly summarizes A, what this initiative is, and then B, some of the general sentiment around the ETH Foundation at the moment. What I think is kind of cool, actually, and look, I don't necessarily think there needs to be multiple ETH foundations. There was that other bit in the news today where the co-founder or founder of Lido denied the fact that they were going to be suggesting a second ETH foundation. But I think maybe there should be a bit more of an emphasis on people who are building on Ethereum. And this actually kind of applies to any ecosystem. Like, if you want to make stuff happen, there's really nothing stopping you from going to do it. I know funding might be an issue, but as far as I know, ETH does, the foundation does go up a lot of funding all the time. Maybe not in the right things. Maybe it's an opaque process. Maybe it's become a bit of a internal thing where it's been hard for maybe outsiders to get it. I don't know all of the details specifically. There was a lot of funding available, and for the teams that are well capitalized and are well kind of established, I think some of the responsibility can actually go on other people to be like, look, go out and do some of the stuff. There's some real titans on ETH in terms of protocols, TVL, revenue, all of this stuff. So, maybe you need your industry leaders to go out and do some of the stuff as well. Not coming out as like a big defender of the foundation. I think a lot of the criticisms are valid, but I'm always very, very pro not looking to the parent to kind of fix all your problems, as the second generation. You just got to try and make some of it your own way as well. So that's maybe a little bit of a counterpoint. I think all of the points are valid though, ultimately. That's it for today. Legendary, any final reflections here in general?
Nothing to really add to that. I like the second generation analogy.
We are all children of Vitalik. Legendary. That is how we're going to close the show. Right. That's it, guys. That is our show for today. As usual, we do this every single day, Monday to Friday at 7 a.m. Eastern Time for 1 hour. We're live on X Video, YouTube, Apple and Spotify podcasts. We're not live there, but you can get the recordings. And tomorrow we will be doing our first NFT mint. It's going to be cheap. It's going to be calm. It's going to be no FOMO attached to it. It's going to cost a couple of dollars, so long as all of the tech works. So we hope you kind of join us on that journey. It's going to be a mint every single week, one per week. We've been explaining our thinking behind that. So hopefully you'll be there for that. Hopefully you'll be here for all the shows. Thank you so much for joining us. We hope you have a wonderful day. Take care, and we will see you again tomorrow. Bye-bye.